Hi, welcome everybody to another riveting edition of Sustainability Lunch Series. We're excited today to talk all about careers in this space. For anybody that I haven't yet met, my name is Jen Graham. I'm Senior Associate Director of the MIT Sloan Sustainability Initiative. I wear many hats, but I oversee the student and alumni engagement for our team. I help students with anything from class selection, deciding whether or not to pursue the sustainability certificate, how to navigate an internship or career search, among many, many other things. And I'm joined today by my lovely colleague from the Career Development Office. So Sumaya, I invite you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sumaya. I'm an MBA career advisor in the CDO working with MBAs, and I lead the MBA career advising team. I'm the liaison to the Sustainability Initiative, along with my colleague, Julie Kano. We kind of both work with the initiative, and happy to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you, Sumaya. So we have a lot of content to get through today. So we're going to do our best to cover everything and then also leave some time at the end to invite a few second years to share with you all their experience in their internship search in this space, which is always a really beneficial conversation whenever we've held this event. But before we get going, just a couple of quick announcements. So next week, our Sustainability Lunch Series is going to focus on what we call our Spring Showcase. This is when we invite faculty who are teaching sustainability courses in the spring to give a quick pitch of their class. So this is a really valuable lunch series to attend if you're thinking about which classes you're going to enroll in before bidding, especially if you're thinking about the sustainability certificate. If you haven't even started this process, this might be a good chance to first hear about some of the exciting courses that are going to be offered. So we're going to meet here, same classroom, same time next Thursday. If you haven't yet registered, QR codes on the screen as well as on Sloan Groups. Yes, we are going to record the session. I just learned of a Sloan Fellow conflict, unfortunately. So we're going to make sure I'm working with the Sloan Fellow team to make sure you get all the info. You're welcome. And then we're going to close out the fall semester with our final lunch series. We're going to invite Kylie Fickert, who is a PhD of MIT and the Chief Product Officer for Forma Systems. Forma Systems won the MIT Climate and Energy. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I think the QR codes are the same.
Oh, they're the same. Okay. We will email the correct links following the event. Thank you. So Forma Systems, we're going to invite Kylie to be our guest speaker on December 4th. Forma Systems was the winner of the Climate and Energy Prize in 2025, and they're focused on low carbon construction materials. Very excited for this conversation, really exciting work that they're doing. And so join us in early December. So today's agenda, as I mentioned, we have a lot of content to get through. We're going to start by just reviewing sort of the current career landscape in sustainability. Then we're going to pivot and talk about how to explore your options. We're going to think about your individual approach to this search, as well as take a look at where MIT students before you have landed, because this information is going to be very helpful, especially as you're developing your network. We'll talk about some search strategies, and lastly, leave you with some resources to support you along the way. And then we'll close out, like I mentioned, with a discussion from a few current students so that they can share their perspective and some advice. So let's talk about the breadth, the moment, the complexity of this space. So companies cannot ignore climate change. Despite some of the headwinds that companies are facing in this moment, businesses are still being impacted by climate change. We're seeing disruptions in supply chains. We're seeing policy and reputation risks for people who are sort of backing down on their commitments that they made just a few years ago. And MBA students graduating today should still be thinking about how climate change impacts business, because this is going to have long-term repercussions. I think at this point, it's naive to think that climate is not going to touch traditional business. And so this is something that every student should be thinking about, especially as you're thinking about your career. This also allows, these challenges also allow for opportunities in this space. Despite some of the headlines, we've talked to various alumni and organizational contacts who are really staying true to their commitments in sustainability. So they're not backing down. They're still committed to recruiting students in this space, and are, in some cases, actually doubling down on some of these opportunities. And so this is just to emphasize that sustainability is still critical to the MBA experience, despite some conversations that you might be having outside this classroom. And the message that I want to leave with you is that every job needs to be a sustainability job. We're in an era where every job plays a role in shaping the future. And it's not just a career choice, it's a global responsibility that you all have to think about how to embed your sustainability skills into your career long-term. So when I say every single job needs to be a sustainability job, what do I mean? I've created this visual because I find that often students who come into this conversation sharing that they want to pivot into a sustainability career often don't know where to start. And so I decided to sort of categorize the different options that are available to you when thinking about a career in sustainability. And so I've broken it down into 3 types of roles: sustainability in, sustainability through, sustainability adjacent. What do I mean by that? Sustainability in. So these are sort of the classic sustainability roles that you will think of when I say, oh, I'm getting an MBA and I'm specializing in sustainability. Chief Sustainability Officer, maybe an ESG analyst, a climate risk lead. These are the folks who are inside the organization who are doing the technical, analytical, and reporting work that enables a company to achieve their climate goals. And I've also pointed out here sort of where those individuals sit within an organization traditionally, as well as some examples of job titles that I think can be a really great jumping off point for students. Next, sustainability through. So this is sort of where students can find climate forward companies where sustainability is going to impact every single role within the organization. So most frequently among Sloan students, we'll see students who are interested in climate-focused startups or growth stage companies. So companies that are investing in a specific type of technology where you need to scale, you need to deploy, you need to grow a company quickly. As you can see here, again, highlighting some of the industries and areas where you can find these opportunities. As I mentioned, climate tech firms, startups in this space, impact funds, but even some sustainability-focused consulting practices. And again, I've mentioned and highlighted here just a few examples of those job titles. So then lastly, the sustainability adjacent roles. So these are the types of roles that do not have sustainability in the job title, but sustainability impacts almost every aspect of their work. So think of consultants, think of policy teams, procurement, broader corporate strategy. This is a great path for students who might not be ready to take a full leap into sustainability, but might want to explore options maybe 5-10 years after graduating from Sloan. That way you can develop that sort of broad exposure to industries while also getting some deep expertise that you can apply to a sustainability role longer term. And I'm going to come back to this and reference these 3 types in just a few slides when I showcase some of the areas and some of the roles that our Sloan students have pursued post-MBA, post-grad school. And I want to also highlight and emphasize the skills that are needed for each one of these different types of sustainability roles. They're going to look a little bit different depending on the type that you're focusing in on. What do I mean by that? So here I've sort of just created a laundry list of the technical, functional skills, as well as some of the leadership skills that are necessary for a sustainability job. So if we go back, sustainability in. So we're looking at corporate sustainability strategy, LCA measurement, climate accounting, data analysis and storytelling, sort of taking the data, taking that technical information, and creating a message that resonates with business leaders. Those types of skills that are highlighted on this short list are probably very wise for you to focus in on as you're thinking about classes, commitments, case competitions. Where can you develop those technical skills so that you can apply them for the types of roles in this box? We look at sustainability through. As I mentioned before, a lot of these firms are sort of climate tech startups that are focused on a specific area of technology. So it's probably wise to be very literate in that type of technology. Batteries, hydrogen, regenerative ag, those are just a few examples. But I would also advocate that financial literacy is going to be critical, especially for this space right now. We're seeing financial funding being pulled from a lot of those investments. So startups are getting creative with how they can fund these technologies. So how can you develop those skills now while in business school and apply them to your resume, in your informational interview and beyond? And lastly, so the sustainability adjacent roles. Okay, so these broader job titles, like I mentioned, that don't necessarily have sustainability placed in them. Well, it's probably wise to think more broadly. Let's think about systems thinking, system dynamics. How can you apply these sustainability concepts in a systems thinking approach to impact the larger organization? This is why system dynamics is a foundational class of the sustainability certificate, because we know the importance of this and the longer term impact that it can have on an organization. So taking classes like our BSSF class, which takes systems thinking concepts but applies them to sustainable business, would be wise to consider taking that class as if you're looking to develop those skills and apply them to these types of jobs. Yes.
Just a question. It would be very nice to be able to understand these functional skills. Maybe some of them, they are very technical. How they tie to the current Sloan courses offering. So we are like, okay, I get this chunk from this class, and how in that way we can optimize much better our planning here, especially for Sloan fellows that we don't have at all.
Yeah, and that's a great suggestion, which we can potentially incorporate into next week's session as we're highlighting some of the classes that are coming up. Sure.
This is because I'm lost as well.
No, thank you for that feedback. And if you have feedback now or later too, and how we can best improve our resources, very much open to that. I just want to be mindful of time because I have like many slides ahead of me before the panel. Do you mind if we table it till the end of the session? Okay, thanks, Tom. I just want to point out here too, I don't want to dilute the leadership skills and how important they are when approaching a sustainability job search either. Because if you have all this technical experience and you cannot influence a team who doesn't know about that technology, it's not going to create an impact that you desire. So translating these technical skills into or developing the content for specific business audiences while also working cross-functionally across a team is going to be critical for your job search as well. So I just do not want to dilute what's often called some of these soft skills because they're just as important as developing these deep technical skills as well. Okay, phase 2, exploring your options. So we've sort of categorized explore your options into 2 subcategories. The first one, we want you to develop a strategy. We want to demystify the ambiguity in this space, but most importantly, we want to reduce stress. So with that, Sumaya, I'm actually going to hand it over to you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So for the MBAs in the room, this terminology will probably look familiar. There are many different pathways into sustainability. And so we talk about generally cohort hiring, where employers know their hiring needs in advance, and they have a very structured recruiting process. And they're hiring multiple people, usually MBAs, but they could be hiring for other programs as well. They are hiring multiple people to form a cohort. And then you've got the just-in-time network search, which is pretty much everything else. So if you're wondering, where within sustainability would I find roles or how does it recruit? The answer is both. So that doesn't give you a ton of clarity the way you might have with, for example, consulting or investment banking, which are all cohort hiring. But aside from those, pretty much everything else, including sustainability roles, will be a mix of cohort and just-in-time. Hard to say exactly what that percentage breakdown would be, but I would say you'd find typically the larger employers like Nike with a sustainability supply chain role being more in the cohort timing and the cohort format. And lots of other opportunities and smaller companies being more in the just-in-time network search. And the market varies a lot with new players, new roles every year, so it is very fluid. The timing of just-in-time networked roles, these are posted typically 6 to 8, 8 to 12, probably in the 2-month mark before they need somebody in the role. So you'll find a lot of activity like in March and April, but that you'll also find opportunities beforehand. So don't stop looking. If you know your target employer is more of a just-in-time search, you're going to have a lot of legwork to do beforehand. So we can talk about that as well.
And I'm just going to emphasize a few things that Sumaya touched on. And I highlighted in this slide just a few ways that the sustainability job market is different from some of these other quote unquote more traditional job markets that you might find your classmates pursuing. The roles will emerge as priorities shift. So regulatory pivots, strategic pivots, funding pivots, stakeholder pressure, all of these are going to impact whether or not a company can recruit. So oftentimes what I've seen is that a company perhaps might get funding and needs to recruit a team ASAP. This is what we mean when we say that recruitment happens off cycle, it's nonlinear, they recruit just in time. So this means that you need to be flexible, you need to be persistent, and you need to be well aware of the resources available to you from now until you sign that job offer. Hiring is, as I mentioned, often tied to some of these new initiatives, and this is very normal. So, I mean, I know the world that we're in right now is very unique compared to circumstances we've seen in previous years. But as a sustainability professional who's been helping students for about a decade, this whole process is very normal. I've seen students land jobs in the fall, full-time jobs in sustainability. I've seen students land an offer post-graduation. And I'm just here to, again, to eliminate some of that stress and share with you that we're here to support you every step along this way. I also want to just highlight here the things that managers value. And so this is particularly important because these jobs show up just in time. So how can you be ready? How can you be equipped to articulate the value that you bring in that informational interview at the drop of a hat? That's where we can step in to help create that narrative, help practice that narrative so that you are your most competitive candidate moving forward. And I'm going to pass the mic to Sumaya to also talk about how you can create your own internship in this process as you're networking with professionals in this space.
Yeah, so we'll talk a bit more broadly about your strategy in general. But it is possible to also potentially create an internship with a company. This is more likely to happen at a smaller company versus a much larger one because a smaller company can just be more flexible with what they can hire for and their timing. So if you're interested in this, maybe you've got some companies you're really interested in and they don't typically hire interns or graduate or MBA interns. They might still create a role for you if they see the business need. And there's no exact way or formula to make this happen, but what it tends to look like is really taking an informational approach and giving yourself time to get to know this company over a series of conversations. So you're reaching out for an informational interview, looking to learn more, build that connection, and then you're having conversations with them about their challenges, their priorities, what they're really working on, what do they need? And then in the back of your mind, you're thinking through, okay, what's my skill set? How could I help them with this? And through getting to know them, you can hopefully come up with some ideas of this is what I could help you with over the summer. Would you be interested in talking about that? So the long and the short of it is taking an informational approach over time to get to know them so that you learn how you could potentially contribute. And so instead of saying, just generally, would you be open to an intern this summer? You can proactively propose some ideas based on your conversations, and you're giving them something to then react to, and you can kind of co-create it from there. But it's really taking an informed, proactive approach. I have also heard of students just reaching out and kind of cold asking, would you be open to an intern this summer? And the answer is positive. So it's not that it can never happen that way, but generally we advocate for a more informed approach that's based on relationship building.
Awesome. And I'm going to reflect back on this, creating your own internship, in two other instances coming up. One is going to be an actual story of an alum who did that, and also an opportunity for you to apply for funding through the initiative if you're in this position and the company might not be able to compensate you. We can support that. Okay, step 2B. Where have other MIT students landed? How can we create credibility, identify patterns, and also inspire you to think about your own career path? So some of you might be familiar with this visual. This is a 2x2 matrix that was developed by our colleague, Katie Cross. Katie Cross is the director of the our equivalent at Duke's Fuqua School of Business. So she oversees their climate center. She's actually in the process of publishing the 3rd edition of a book specifically for MBAs looking for a climate career. But in her initial publication, she asked, do you want to make a green company big or a big company green? So if we take the visual that I shared with you, that sort of 3x3 matrix earlier, but then we sort of pivot our mindset and start thinking about what are the types of organizations that I want to target? What are the types of roles that I could see myself in? She breaks it down here by what we call traditional and sustainability oriented or mission driven. She does that by organization, by job or role, so that you can start to identify where in this 2x2 matrix you want to prioritize in your internship or job search. Now, this is where it gets good. So these are all graduates of the Sustainability Certificate Program and where they land in this 2x2 matrix. Now, I'm just going to say, if I was sitting in your seat, I would take a picture of this and I would reach out to any of these people. You can drop my name. We know all of them. Yeah. Nice. So this is telling a story, right? So if we think about this traditional box in the upper left, we can see Heather. Heather went to Apple. She went in global sourcing and supply management. That is sort of that sustainability adjacent role we were talking about, right? Sustainability is not in her job title, but you better believe that some of the concepts, some of the skills that she developed at Sloan are going to impact her job at Apple, right? But if we're just looking at her job description, it might not come across that way. So there's a little bit of nuance here. If we look in the upper right quadrant, a sustainability-oriented organization, but in a traditional role. If we look at, say, Todd, Business Development Director and of Construction Materials for Cargill. So Cargill, a mission-oriented organization, but in this more traditional role. So again, lots of opportunity to be able to apply these skills into his position because the whole organization gives that opportunity despite whatever role you have there. If we flip the script and we go to the bottom left quadrant, okay, I hold a sustainability-oriented role. I'm on the sustainability team within a larger traditional organization. Traceability manager at Nike. So Nike is what we would identify as a retail company. However, we know that they have sustainability teams. So Valerie joined the traceability team, the sustainability team at Nike as traceability manager. So again, lots of opportunity to apply the skills that she developed at Sloan into her job. Now, it might not be the entire company's focused on sustainability, but I would assume her team is heavily focused on this area. And then in the bottom right, you can see some of the folks that went all in on sustainability. So they're wearing a sustainability hat, but also at a mission-oriented organization. And the story that I want to share about developing your own summer internship is Steph Doderer on the bottom right. So Steph actually met Cedron Technologies. Cedron Technologies actually takes human waste and creates renewable energy from it. They're growing like crazy, definitely worth a Google search if you're not familiar with them. She met them at a food and ag event. They did not hire MBA interns or interns at all yet, networked her way in, pitched this idea of hiring her as an MBA intern, and now they're in their 3rd year to recruit a Sloan student because it's just her doing the recruiting. So you might have seen a couple of weeks ago, I posted on the WhatsApp group that someone said Cedron was hiring. This is specifically her reaching out to me to find just Sloanies. So it's a phenomenal opportunity for you to get your foot in the door, get that internship opportunity because it's not being posted and blasted everywhere. So it's just a great example of why you should advocate for MBA internships if you are talking to a company and they don't yet have that structure. Now I want to pivot and talk a little bit about how many of our students fit into each one of these categories. Now, the caveat here is that this data is from our sustainability certificate cohorts from 2024 and 2025. So this is not a look at the entire MBA class. This includes anybody who graduated with the sustainability certificate. So the caveat here is that we have a lot of EMBAs and Sloan Fellows who are sponsored. So they are required to go back to their organization, which very frequently fit into that traditional organization, traditional role. However, with lots of opportunity for that adjacent sustainability impact, right? So lots of opportunity to take the concepts learned in class and apply them to your current job or the job that you're going to return to. But I think this is a helpful look to just see where Sloanies have landed in the past. And I will say that that 61% is decreasing over time. It decreased by 1% with the 2025 cohort, but that is something. 3 years ago, it was 75%, hovering around 75%. So we're seeing these other three categories grow with our sustainability certificate cohorts, which is really exciting for all of us. And this is just to emphasize that there are blurred lines all over the place here, right? So every job needs to be a sustainability job, honing in on that message. A couple of other stats that I think are very helpful as you're thinking about an internship or job search are the industries that students have landed. That's in the pie graph on the right. So you can kind of see top industries, consulting, finance, energy, and then tech. So a lot of patterns that actually follow the larger employment stats coming out of the CDO. But you'll also see, a good slice of the pie is under this other category. We have a lot of students who actually pursue opportunities in industries that are sort of outside the top 10 that we'll traditionally see, which is very exciting. And then if you see on the left-hand side, this is how someone obtained their full-time offer. So you'll see a lot of people, again, returning to a sponsored company. That's because we have EMBAs and Sloan Fellows in the mix. But you'll see that a significant portion of our students landed a summer internship that led to a full-time job, that their personal networking was really vital to the process, as well as some of these other options that are available to you as an MIT Sloan student. So if we're focusing in on sort of this idea of how your full-time offer was sourced, let's talk about the value of a summer internship. How many of you are first-year MBAs? Amazing. So each year we have 2 internship programs where we support students, which I'll highlight in a few slides. But this past summer, we were able to support a record number of 33 MBA students, providing additional funding for their sustainability opportunity. We published a roundup report. Shout out to Emma for pulling it all together. If you haven't yet read it, QR code's up on the screen and it's also on our website. These are all current second years, like they're still here on campus. So it would be wise to take a look through this report and see where they worked. Hey, do you want to grab coffee after class? You're in this class with me. Hey, this is a very easy networking, low-hanging fruit opportunity. Okay, so how do we approach a sustainability job or internship search? So again, I'm going to ask Sumaya to talk a little bit about strategy.
Okay, all right. So Jen mentioned flexibility and persistence, and I'm going to add to that proactive. This search really requires you to be very proactive. So here's what this is going to look like. You want to focus first on clarifying your product market fit. So you as a candidate, where do you fit? Your candidate market fit. So that's really understanding what is your skill set, your background, what do you bring to the table, what are these employers looking for, and how big is that overlap? And specifically, what is that overlap? So you really want to focus on the understanding the skills for what employers are looking for. So Jen had a great starting list there. And then, of course, there will be many more niche skills and role and industry specific skills. So you want to focus on going out there and understanding what are they looking for, and do I have it? Or can I create a plan to build those skills so that I can become a competitive candidate? And I often find that students don't always start with really understanding what their skill set is. So if you're thinking, my skills are teamwork and communication and a lot of those general MBA skills, you're going to want to start to get really specific. So I often hear, well, what's an example? I'll hear of a student who wants to do infrastructure financing, for example, and they've got some finance skills, sort of a finance background. They need to go out and understand what are the different pathways into that. And for some of them, you'll find investment banking is a really critical background. And so then they need to make a choice about, can I cover that gap somehow, or do I need to find another path in or look elsewhere altogether? But they need to really go and understand what's the background the employers look for and the skills. So that's how you figure out where you're going to fit. And then as you're figuring that out, you then need to be able to articulate the unique value you bring. So you don't just want to be a samey candidate, right? You've got to figure out, this is what I uniquely bring, and speak about that to your hiring manager audience in their language in a way that resonates with them so that they see you as a competitive candidate. And this skill is especially important if you're a career switcher who maybe comes from quite a different background, and you're having to maybe really articulate how your transferable skills apply in addition to the new skills that you're gaining here at Sloan. And then you need to proactively build relationships, especially for that just-in-time networked search. It's kind of built into the definition there, networked, right? So you want to give yourself a lot of time, even though a lot of those roles will be posted more in the middle of the spring. You want to use the time between now and then to proactively build relationships at companies you're interested in. And the whole idea is that if you're just relying on online applications, that's really frustrating. We've all had that experience, right? Of just submitting an application, you never hear back. It's just a big hole. And so you want to go around that by getting to know people outside of the formal interview process, probably even before there's a role posted. That's even more ideal, so that they're getting to know you over time. And then when they do have a role, you're not just a resume online. They already know you. And they'll be happy then to tell you, hey, we've got this role opening up, you should apply. Or, we're not hiring, but my colleague over here in a different team or a friend at a different company is hiring. Let me introduce you. And now, because they've gotten to know you more over time, they feel more comfortable making that kind of an introduction. And employers really value those kinds of intros now because they are flooded with online applications. Everybody's using AI to make their cover letters and their resumes even better. So really, a human vouching for another human is really sometimes the thing that makes the difference for hiring managers. And it doesn't feel efficient. It takes a lot of time to do this well, to do it strategically, but think of it as building these relationships to build a pipeline of job leads. So on here, you'll see, I'm not saying online applications, right? That's not your strategy. We're advocating for something else here, which doesn't mean don't apply online. Like, of course, you can do that. You will do that. You should. We just don't want that to be the only thing that you're doing. So there's no exact breakdown of how much you should be applying online versus taking this other approach. It'll depend a lot on what you're pursuing, your own background, kind of how much alignment is there already. But if you remember from that other slide, I think it was external job postings were 5% of the sources, right? So yes, go ahead and do that, but that's a very passive approach. So you don't want to be only just waiting to see what's coming in and applying. Because by the time that role is posted, the hiring manager might already know who they want to hire because they got a referral, right? So really focus on spending your time building those relationships in addition to applications that you might see pop up.
Can I put a plug in here? It is wise to get to know Sumaya and get to know myself. So for example, in the WhatsApp group yesterday, I think I posted a summer associate role with an organization called Silver Peak. Silver Peak is head up by an alum of ours who teaches a SIP course. And so he reached out to me saying, hey, who do you know that's good for this role? And I was like, hey, I actually haven't met too many first years who are in finance and sustainability just yet, but let me just throw it out to the ether and see what happens. But if someone had connected with me already, if we had had an advising appointment, I could be like, here's the resume. So things happening behind the scenes because you've developed this network, because you've gotten to know individuals who are in this space, like career advisors, like myself, can be super valuable, especially in your first semester.
We can help you with any of this as well, like your whole process to figure out where do you fit in making decisions, articulating your value proposition, all the details of networking. If you're an MBA, check out the Career Core videos. These all align with the content there. So if you've got more nuanced questions about how exactly do I reach out, lots of those questions are answered there.
Awesome. And this slide just sort of breaks down that process even further. We'll share the slides after the fact, but I think it's pretty well communicated in words on here. So I won't go through every single step, but I will also just re-emphasize some of the points that you made, Sumaya, around developing, doing a skills analysis of what you bring to the table right now and where are the gaps. So you're identifying a job, an area that you're very interested in, but you're like, oh, I do not have LCA analysis. I do not know how to do that. This is where you can start to identify those gaps and start to find opportunities so that you can develop those skills. So classes, clubs, case competitions, networking, and then test and reiterate. The last point that I want to leave you with on this slide is sort of this idea of stacking experiences. I'm a little obsessed with this idea after I went to an alum panel about the fact that it's not enough to just have sustainability certificate on your resume anymore. You're going to be up against a bunch of other candidates who are doing things like taking classes, leading clubs, doing case competitions, doing part-time internships during the spring and fall, doing a full-time summer internship, taking these leadership opportunities, stacking those experiences, and diversifying those experiences. That is what's going to make you stand out as a candidate. How are we going to stack those skills? This is just a short list of all the ways that MIT Sloan students have done just this. Develop some experiential learning opportunities, either structured, pre-structured opportunities, or develop one yourself. Loads of students take, for example, independent studies. That's something that you could develop yourself. Working with an organization on a project, finding a faculty member who will sign off on that for academic credit. Very valuable way to develop skills as well as a network throughout this process. And I'll hand it over to Sumaya to talk about value of network.
Okay, so learning how to have these informational conversations is a really important skill to your whole job search. Again, lots of videos online to help you walk through what this looks like when you're exploring your options versus what it looks like when you've decided what you're pursuing and now you're more actively ready to apply. So these conversations are going to be key. This is how you build relationships that can lead to job leads, the way I just mentioned. So the more you get to know somebody, the more they're understanding what you bring to the table. You're able to convey your value, especially as a career switcher, in a way that your resume can't when you're in an actual back and forth conversation. So they get to know you, they get to trust you, and they're more likely to let you know when they or somebody else has a job opening. It's also key to, again, doing that exploration and understanding roles, understanding responsibilities and skills, and understanding their hiring needs and their trends. So what team is likely to hire based on, this project that's a key priority, for example. And you also want to use it to get direct feedback from the market on your candidacy. So you understand from the market if they perceive you as a competitive candidate or not. And we can talk in advising sessions about what that might actually look like, some language you can use. And you can also use the information that you gain in these conversations in your interviews. You can be more informed, you can connect what you learned to your interview conversations. So you just come across as a more prepared, more informed candidate, a stronger candidate. I will say, I think the key to all of this is being strategic and being prepared. So for example, if you're reaching out to somebody about a company you're curious about, you wouldn't say to them, for example, I want to learn more about what you do, right? You want to already do the research on that company as much as you can, look at people's LinkedIn profiles to get a sense of what their roles might involve and say, I was learning about XYZ. I love what you're doing in XYZ space, something specific. I'd love to learn more about something specific that follows that, right? So you're just, again, coming across as having done your research and more informed, more prepared. And with this whole skill analysis, so you wouldn't say, so what skills do you look for when you're hiring, right? You would want to go and first do the research, analyzing job descriptions, using AI, talking to other folks, and come up with like a hypothesis of what skills you think are needed. You go into that conversation saying, based on my research, it seems like ABC skills are really key for roles in this space. Is that true with your experience? Or what else would you add to that? So again, you're giving them something to react to. You show you've done your research, you're more informed and prepared, and still getting the information that you need.
Awesome.
Oh, one last thing.
Oh, yeah.
actually. How many of you have a LinkedIn summary or a complete LinkedIn profile? Okay, a couple. All right, just a reminder, because we often see Sloanies who are seeking full-time roles, seeking internships, and their LinkedIn profile is pretty sparse. And just keep in mind, if you reach out to somebody asking to meet with them, probably the first thing they're going to do is check out your LinkedIn profile. And if it's pretty sparse, there's not a whole lot there, they're less likely to respond. So you might get a better response rate if you've got a full profile there. They can get a sense of what you're looking for, what you bring, where you're at. So just keep in mind that that's like the first thing that hiring managers or networking contacts are going to check out.
Awesome. Okay, so before we pivot to our student panel, I'm going to leave you with a ton of resources. And again, I will share these slides so that it's a bit less overwhelming right now. So first, we're going to spotlight the CDO and some of the resources that are available to you as a Sloan student.
So we work with a handful of programs. If you're in SDM, you've got a different career advisor, for example, but we work with these programs. I work just with the MBAs, but I've got colleagues at the CDO who work with other programs. So you can meet with us one-on-one, and that's really the best way to get custom and in-depth support and really go deep on any of this and figure out what are your specific next steps. We have the employer relations and recruiting team. They are employer-facing, so they are out there connecting with companies. On your CDO, which is our website, you've got industry-specific resources and resources to find alumni and peers as well. Career Central, another way to find company information, company contacts, and the Career Core videos, which I mentioned earlier. So on-demand access to lots of these different topics whenever you need it. And other pages. So we have an Explore MBA Careers page where you'll find decks that cover different kinds of information on recruiting for different industries, other key links. The sustainability and the energy industry pages contain further specific information by industry. And again, Career Central. So if you've got companies that you're interested in, go in there and check out the company notes. Employer Relations keeps updated notes based on whatever we learn from companies about their hiring plans or their updates. You can also find contacts there as well. And use the filters really effectively. So if you're searching for sustainability, like a lot of roles will probably not have that in the title. So you want to use different kinds of keywords and different kinds of searches to get broad results.
So now I'm just going to highlight a few key resources that are available to MIT students, and then I'll leave you with a list of resources that are beyond our campus. I mentioned case competitions a few times. So these 4 in particular are all organized by our peer schools. Mint by Wharton, ESG by Michigan, Questrom by BU, and the Global Sustainability Challenge is a new one from Stanford. All of them email me up the wazoo to get Sloanies to participate. And this is a phenomenal way to get experience in a short amount of time. So I'm going to put a key emphasis here on case competitions. Action learning labs are another great way to develop experiential learning. Work Lab, I just want to highlight, it was formerly USA Lab, but they're doing some really exciting things, which we'll talk about in next week's Sustainability Lunch series. We have a few clubs that oversee consulting projects each semester that I think get often overlooked. So take a look at those opportunities if you're looking to develop some more experience. And then, of course, student-led conferences. Not just attending, but being part of the planning committee can open up a lot of doors. I've worked with many students who have been part of content teams, sponsorship teams, who are doing direct outreach to organizations, to individuals that have then led to an internship opportunity. So don't overlook a leadership position within one of these student-led conferences. Other resources that I want to highlight are the student clubs themselves. They do a phenomenal job focusing on programming around careers, career fairs and networking events. This is the second year that we partnered with Harvard for a climate-specific career expo that just happened. The MIT large spring career fair is going to happen in February. There's an energy and climate career fair happening in March. And then the Sloan career fair will also happen in the spring semester. And again, just spotlighting a few of the CDO resources that are available to you here. And the two funds that I was talking about, so these are two programs in which the Sustainability Initiative provides additional funding to first-year MBAs who are pursuing a sustainability internship. One, I work with the CDO to help source opportunities. We'll collect them all and we'll post them in January or February. So make sure that you're tapping into the WhatsApp group, our newsletters for that announcement, because the first 5 to accept an offer from one of these programs receive that additional funding from our team. So it is wise to apply ASAP. And we're very excited about some of the companies who are coming back to recruit Sloanies. The other program, students find their own opportunity out in their own networking. They might need some additional funding. Maybe they're talking to a company and, hey, would you ever consider hiring an MBA student, even though you don't have a structured program? We can't hire a student. We don't have enough money. Let me apply for additional funding. Then would you hire me? Sure. That is how it happens. So this impact fund opens up at late spring. And so again, tap into our communication networks so that you don't miss out on those opportunities. And then beyond MIT, I just did a short list of job postings in this platforms in this space. This is by no means the only list of job boards. Some really great conferences that are not student-led that I would advise students take a look at, maybe potentially volunteer at. And then some really great additional resources here. I'm shouting out MBA Edge. This is an online resources developed by the Fuqua team. So same team that wrote that book. They have a whole website that has resources that are industry specific. So you're thinking about critical minerals, but you have no idea where to start. Go there, they have a whole resource on it. Climate Hack and Food Hack are two really valuable platforms as well. They both have incredible newsletters. I actually learned about them from an alum who told me that the Food Hack newsletter is single-handedly the best food and ag newsletter that he receives. So that's how I got tapped into this network. So bookmark those, sign up for their communications, very valuable. And then lastly, streams of study. So you might have seen a few announcements. Our team developed what we're calling these streams. This is your first stop in exploring sustainability in these certain areas. So we found that many students go into climate tech, many of our students go into finance in some capacity. So I developed these resources that highlight classes, clubs, previous internships, full-time job opportunities, case competitions, impact stories that can be very valuable as you're carving out the short time that you're on campus. So make sure you're taking advantage. And so with that, enough from us. We'd love to hear directly from some students about their experience looking for an internship or job in this space. So I'm going to invite a couple of our students in person, and we have one that's joining us online. And we're going to just learn about their experience and any advice that they would have. So please come on up. Thank you. And Jens, I don't know if you can, it's Christian, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Amazing.
I also turned on my camera, but I can't see myself, so I don't know if you can see me.
We can see a frozen version of yourself, but we can hear. Awesome.
Frozen
If
version.
you want to go off camera and then we'll just listen in, that's totally fine.
Okay, cool. Now mine is freezing as well. I can hear you and see you,
Okay.
but I can't press
Okay.
anything. So you might have
Okay.
a frozen version of me for a few minutes.
No problem. Well, I want to start off by first thanking all three of you for participating today, and maybe just doing a quick introduction. So introducing yourself. What was your summer internship? Maybe what did you work on over the summer? And maybe we'll start in person and then we'll pivot to online.
Hi, everyone. My name is Supriya. I'm a second-year MBA. This summer, I worked at Found Energy, which is just over in Charlestown. It's maybe a 10-minute drive from here. There we go, JC. I love this frozen view. And I was a business development intern there. And so I worked on some basically like primary market research for them. And then the second half of my internship, I helped them basically get ready for a Series A fundraise. So, helping with a pitch deck, helping create a techno-economic analyses, all of these things that I had never done before, but learned a lot from. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Salvador. I'm a second-year MBA student. Prior experience in consulting. This summer, I worked at Earth Enable. It's an affordable housing construction company in East Africa, based in Rwanda, but operates also in Kenya and Uganda. And I was in their finance and operations team. So a lot of field visits during the week, and then one or two per week, and then a lot of financial modeling and operational systems we can dive in.
Awesome. Thank you. And JC.
Yes, so
Okay.
I don't know if you can see me now. I still can't see myself, but my name is Jens Christian. I'm a second-year MBA student. I did my internship in for an NGO, Human Practice Foundation. They're based out of Denmark. I'm from Denmark as well, so that's how I got in touch with them. But they do their work mostly in Kenya and in Nepal, and I helped them evaluate and revise their entire process of working with data. So they were very good at collecting data for many years, but never really succeeded in using it for that much. So I practically I built some dashboards in Power BI. Hadn't done that before, but it was relatively straightforward with ChatGPT and YouTube. And then I went with them out in the field and looked at like their process of collecting data and how they might change that, and helped a little bit with that.
Excellent. Thank you. Would love to hear what drew you to this particular opportunity. How did you find out about the role? And tell us a little bit about the application process. Maybe we'll go in the same order.
Sure.
So I found out about the role. It was posted on CDO, and I had actually met the founder of the company during an IAP class called Nuts and Bolts, which is a great class. And he was a panelist during that class. So that's how I had found it. And then I kind of looked into it a little further, and it was, I mean, what Found Energy does is essentially they do clean thermal energy through aluminum. And I was kind of agnostic on like what area I was working in, but I wanted to get the skills that I was interested in. So I was attracted to the role because I thought that, it would be a great chance to work at an early stage startup, get to do some business development, PMR, which if you're at all in startup land, that it's very important to learn how to do that well. And so I was mostly attracted to it for sort of like the skills that I was going to get out of the role.
Yeah, for me, it was a combination of kind of MIT resources and networking. I knew I wanted to do something abroad. I was very interested in East Africa. My prior roommate from New York had done some work in Kenya and had an amazing experience. And I wanted to do something like that during my MBA. So I started there. I talked to him, see which contacts he had, and then one contact led to another, which eventually led to the founder of this company of Earth Enable, and I really connected with her. And then I met the CFO, who was leaving soon to HBS, and I would be kind of feeling some of his responsibilities, and it just felt really nice. It felt like I really connected with the team, and it would be a great place to learn. So I would say that was a big reason, and then the whole company mission as well. Most of East Africa, over half of the population, lives in really bad housing conditions, live in dirt floors, and just having some impact in that area felt very, very appealing as well.
Did we lose him? No. Okay, hopefully he can join in a moment. So that's okay. We'll just continue. So you both mentioned a little bit about skills. Were there skills that you used more than others? And were you leveraging maybe some of the classes you took or experiences that you had in your first year?
Yeah, I can start us off. So I was a software engineer before my MBA. So like I had no idea how to do any kind of financial modeling, sort of anything that a business development role would ask for. I found that the two classes that were most helpful were managerial finance, I guess partially BALFs, which is taught by Chris No, and it just kind of teaches you how to be more fluent when it comes to financial ratios, things like this, financial modeling. And kind of strangely, this was unexpected, but I got a lot from venture creation tactics, which is also taught in the spring. It's a Martin Trust Center class. I think this is specifically going to apply to if you're working at a startup, because they teach you a lot of, how to do primary market research, how to select a beachhead market, how to make strategic decisions when you're working at a really early stage startup with not a lot of resources. So, during that class, I had run PMR ads on Reddit. I did this for Found Energy, and it was something they had never thought of doing before, but was actually super helpful to them. Turns out there's entire subreddits that are like exactly our beachhead market. So it was that was one that was very unexpectedly helpful.
Amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Like managerial finance for me was helpful. Some of the finance, and then I think for me, like there was a lot of analytics, a lot of like SQL coding that I didn't take much in the first year, but just from prior experience, I thought was super useful. And then I took competitive strategy also first year, which not so much for the content, but I think it really teaches you to think in a structured way, like what you were saying about the systems thinking and just presenting analysis. The company felt very much like a startup culture, and I think like me bringing a lot of that structure into the way they made decisions and processes was really helpful, and I think that class really pushes you to think that way.
I'll just plus one that I've 100% only got through the interview because of competitive strategy. So I use like Michael Porter's 5 forces in my interview, and I was just kind of like going off of memory because I didn't know what they were going to ask. Basically, my final interview, they just said, "Come by the offices and we'll show you the chemical reaction." And I was like, "Is this an interview? What's about to happen?" So that class 100% got me through. Highly recommend.
Amazing.
Great advice.
Back.
He's back. JC, can you hear us?
Yes, yes. I'm sorry. I'm back and I can hear and see you all.
Amazing. So we were talking a little bit about skills and what classes or experiences in your first year impacted your internship.
Yes. No, I thought a little bit about that as well, and I think one that stands out is DMD. I'd never really coded before, and then in DMD we coded in R. I know that it's changed to Python now, but like getting basic skills within coding really helped me with my job because I developed these dashboards, and even though the code in Power BI is quite different, it's still just being familiar with this. I think was pretty helpful. I also think system dynamics taught me a lot about like I think how to think about you know causality in a different way than I've been taught before. And I think I found myself once in a while drawing up some of the you know some of the things that I worked with in diagrams looking like the ones we learned about in system dynamics. And I think that was those 2 classes were really helpful for me. Operations management as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think those 3 probably stand out. I didn't do strategy, and I think it would have been helpful as well, as I hear both Salvador and Supriya say.
Amazing. I know we're at time, but I have 2 more questions. One is what's next for you? What are you thinking about for full time? And then the second, in 5 words or less, what advice would you give any students who are approaching a sustainability job search? So maybe first, what's next?
Yeah, so I am going to just-in-time recruit for early stage startups, plausibly with like fewer than 5 people, so they might not exist yet. So that, that's always an option. Don't feel stressed out if like all of your consulting friends have a job already. And 5 words, don't forget to follow up.
Okay. Love it.
For me, I'm going back to EY Parthenon in New York. I'm actually going back to work with Amar, which I saw in the top quadrant. He was my first consultant in my team. He's a great friend, yeah. And then the advice would be start early and have a strong bias for action. That might be a bit more.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going back to my consulting gig as well at McKinsey in Copenhagen. Hopefully, I get to work a little bit more with our pro bono projects with NGOs. I tried that for a few years, and they kept on saying that I didn't have relevant experience, so they wouldn't send me to Kenya. And now I've been in Kenya working with an NGO, so hopefully there'll be a little bit more of that. But we'll see. I also might just end up doing due diligences, but we'll see. And if advice in 5 words is a little bit tough, but my advice would be I found my internship. So the question about when the application process, my Zoom unfortunately crashed, but I secured my internship a few weeks before I left. So I think it could also be it's never too late.
Yeah.
It's never too late. Yeah, almost 4 words.
Amazing.
If you get the impact
Amazing.
fund, you know, you
Yep.
can offer your work for free, and then that's
Yeah.
that's also ways to do it.
Excellent. Well, I guess final question for all three. Are all three of you open to students reaching out and asking advice? Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you all for joining today. Please join me in thanking Sumaya as well as our student panelists for joining.